We are starting a new series tonight. Scoot this over a little bit. And it's all about spiritual growth. It's going to be a super short series. It's just going to be this week and next week. But it's all about this idea of what happens when God shows up. And I love that video that we just showed because there are moments in our lives where God reveals himself to us in a new way. And the question after that revelation is, what's next? What do we do now? Sometimes those moments happen on these super high mountaintop experiences, and you feel like you are on top of the world, and God is showing up and revealing himself in a way that you have never experienced before. Sometimes those moments, God is revealing himself to you in a time where you are just going through your normal day, and it's a normal activity that you have experienced thousands of times, but for some reason in this moment you are experiencing it in a new way. Sometimes it's those moments where you realize, man, something is happening in your life and you've got to make a change. You've got to quit something. You've got to start something new. Something in your life has to change, and God is revealing that to you. And the big question that happens after that revelation is this: what's next? How do I grow? Where do I go from here? How do I take another step? And no matter how you experience this, no matter if God reveals himself to you when you are on the mountains, or whether you're in a normal day, or whether you realize you need to make a change, all of these have one thing in common, and it's this. From that moment, it's about growth. It's about growing in your faith and taking another step with God. It's beginning to be springtime, and you may have noticed some seeds and flowers popping up. Well, not seeds, but plants and flowers popping up through the soil this spring. Seeds are pretty incredible things. I brought some seeds with me today. I've got a few flower seeds and some acorn squash seeds. We like to grow a decent amount of stuff at our house. Seeds are pretty incredible. Did you know a seed can stay in the dirt for years? Years and years and years. And it's only when a seed is in the right conditions at the right time and it has the right nutrients, and once that happens, a seed can sprout. If you take a seed and it can be in the dirt, or it can be in a package like this, and you find some dirt that has the right nutrients in it, and you have the right temperature on your dirt, that's an important thing, and then you give the seed some water, that seed, let me get one out here, that seed, if you put it in the ground and in the dirt, and then you give it the right nutrients, that seed will grow. And growing seeds is a lot like spiritual growth. And I'm going to set that little planted seed in that pot right there for right now. Ephesians is an absolutely incredible book. Ephesians is all about, from start to finish, growing spiritually. It's the story of God taking us from where we were and loving us and dying for us and thinking we are valuable enough that he would choose us and want us, and us taking us from where we were and then growing into a mature and complete relationship with him. And in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, Paul has explained all of the processes by which God has chased us down. And in the book of Ephesians chapter 4, he says this: instead, by speaking the truth in love, let us grow in every way into Christ, who is the head. The whole body grows from him as it is joined and held together by all the supporting ligaments. The body makes itself grow in that it builds itself up with love as each one does its part. I love the way that Paul describes spiritual growth in this moment. Paul describes spiritual growth in that Jesus is the head of the body. If it was a human body, Jesus would be the brains of the operation. Now, when I was a kid, I went through some growth issues, and that's a whole nother story, but I learned a whole lot about how the brain and the body worked together to allow yourself to grow physically. The brain sends out a command that sends certain hormones and chemicals throughout your body, which tells your muscles, your bones, your ligaments all to grow at certain rates, and your body grows. If it is a plant, like this little plant rooted that we planted right here, it's the root system, and the root system takes up nutrients from the ground and it sends it up through the plant to the various leaves and stems and the trunk of the plant to make sure that every single part of the plant is healthy. And Paul here says Jesus is the brains of the operation. And as long as we are rooted in Jesus and we continue to grow into him, we can grow. And what he does is he sends these signals to us. He sends these signals like, okay, it's time to take another step here. It's time to grow in this area. It's time to grow in that area. It's time to cut this out of your life. It's time to do something new. It's time to make a change. You've never witnessed me like this before, but I'm going to reveal myself to you so that you can see me in a whole new way and your life can take a new shape and a new form. And he sends us these signals, signal after signal after signal after signal. And when we receive these signals from the brain or from the roots that is Jesus, we have a choice. Do we grow into where Jesus is leading us? Or do we take a step back and begin to cut ourselves off from where Jesus is leading us? My encouragement to you tonight is that we would step in to where Jesus is leading us, that we would grow. And the big question becomes, how do we do that in a really practical way? How do we do that in a really practical way? Because it's easy to say, yeah, I'm going to grow in Jesus. But the question is, what does that look like in our daily lives, in our personal lives? Like, God reveals himself, and I think this is a huge struggle for us as Jesus followers, is God reveals himself to us, and we're just like, we think it's awesome and incredible, and it's one of those moments where we're like, dude, I will remember this for the rest of my life, but like that next thing is so tough. Like, where do we go from here? And that's a tough thing to answer. And so tonight I'm going to try to tackle that. And in order to get to where we go, I think there are two things we have to get straight about spiritual growth. There are two things we have to get straight about spiritual growth. The first one is this: growth does not happen overnight. Growth does not happen overnight. We understand that when it comes to plants. Like, I planted this seed, and if I could do a little magic trick and I could like make it start growing while I was speaking, and by the end of it, there would be a vine growing across the stage and all of these acorn squashes growing off this vine. That would be absolutely incredible, right? You guys would be like, whoa, CJ is a magician or something. But that doesn't happen. The truth is, by the time I'm done speaking, this will still be a seed in the soil. Because growth does not happen overnight. And we understand that when it comes to seeds. We understand that when it comes to us physically. Like, we don't just wake up one morning and we're a foot taller. You may wake up one morning and feel like you're an inch taller, but growth does not happen overnight. And so often what we do when we have these moments is we say, all right, God, you revealed yourself to me. I'm doing things a new way. From now on, I am going to be fill in the blank. From now on, I am never going to do whatever it is again. From now on, I am going to start treating people. And we take these stands, which I think are good things, to take a stand and say, my life is going to be different. But what we expect of ourselves when it comes to spiritual growth is this: we expect us to get from point A to point B immediately. And when we don't reach point B as quickly as we thought we did, we feel like failures. And when we don't reach point B as quickly as we thought we did and we feel like failures, suddenly we're like, well, maybe none of that was real. Maybe I can't change. And we've misunderstood the whole growth process from the very start, because growth does not happen overnight. We don't get from point A to point B immediately. If you want to go from point A to point B, there may be 100 little steps that you have to take between those two things. Growth does not happen overnight. It just doesn't. The second thing is this: growth does not happen overnight, but growth does happen in small steps. Growth does happen in small steps. I love the invitation that Jesus gave to his disciples in Matthew. He calls these men, and we kind of put the disciples up on a pedestal, right? Like, we think, man, these guys, they had their stuff together. They were top-notch guys. Look in the book of Matthew when Jesus calls the disciple Matthew. Matthew, I believe it's chapter 9, says this. As Jesus continued on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at a kiosk collecting taxes. He said to him, "Follow me," and he got up and followed him. As Jesus sat down to eat in Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners joined Jesus and his disciples at the table. Man, I absolutely love this. Growth doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen in small steps. I love that Jesus comes to Matthew. You look at where Matthew is at right now. Matthew doesn't have anything together. He is still a tax collector. Tax collectors in that day were traitors. They were people that hated their own people, and they were working for Rome, and everybody hated tax collectors. And Jesus walks up to this guy and he says, "Listen, you've been stealing from your own people. You've been treating people wrong. You've been doing this. You've been doing that. You are like one of the people everybody looks at and is like, that dude is messed up. Follow me." You'll notice he didn't say, "All right, Matthew, check this out. You're going to be this incredible apostle someday. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to make sure you stop collecting taxes. You get all your stuff together. You make sure you start treating people right. And then once you do all that, you come follow me, and then we'll do some stuff together." You know, he didn't say that. He didn't say, "Matthew, come follow me. And just by being in my presence tomorrow morning, you are going to wake up completely different." No, he didn't say that. He said, "Matthew, come follow me." It was an invitation. It was an invitation for him to spend day in, day out following Jesus. And how many conversations do you think that they had that were not recorded where Jesus was just like, "Matthew, remember that thing? Let's work on that." And see, so often we think if we have to be told twice, "Let's work on that," we're like, "Dude, I'm a screw up." But the truth is, growth does not happen overnight. Growth happens in small steps. We have to understand that Jesus' invitation is not to change immediately. Jesus' invitation is that a year from now, we would look slightly different than we do right now. Jesus' invitation is that he would reveal himself, and we would say, "Okay, I'm going to take another step. And I'm not going to be perfect, and I'm not going to hit it out of the park every single time. And this growth thing is not going to be like, holy cow, look at CJ. Overnight, he was this person, now he's that person." No, it's just going to be like these minuscule steps that you're taking where you're growing, and you're growing, and you're growing, and you're growing. And the cool thing about growth is, if you pay attention day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out, you won't really recognize growth. But if you go back and you start to look where you were a year ago, you'll see, oh man, I didn't realize that all those steps that I was taking, I was growing. And so in order to begin growing spiritually, we have to get these two things straight. We have to understand growth doesn't happen overnight. This seed is not going to be sprouting tomorrow. It's just not. Maybe in 3, 4, 5 days, if I keep this nice and warm and I keep a light really low over top of it and I keep it well watered, it's going to take a few steps to get sprouted, but it's not going to happen overnight. And the same is true of us. We have to take steps. Growth doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen in small steps. So the question is, once we understand that, how do we grow? How do we grow? And here's where it all starts. It starts with when Jesus reveals himself in a new way to you, the question that comes back into your mind time and time and time again is this. All right, what next step do I take from here? What next step do I take from here? And here's the thing, is we like to avoid that question at all costs. Because it's a whole lot easier to say, Jesus showed up in my life. From now on, I am going to, let's say, eat healthier. From now on, I am going to eat healthier. And we can proclaim that, and we can be like, I am going to be a different person. I'm going to eat healthier. But to actually say, what's that next step? What's that look like? That's actually harder than saying, I'm going to eat healthier. Because if I say, all right, I'm going to eat healthier, what's that next step? Well, that next step may be like, man, I'm going to go home and I'm going to throw away the new package of Oreos I just bought. If we say, man, you know what? I am struggling with whatever it may be. And so we draw a line in the sand, and it's easy to say, I'm never going to do that again. But it's a whole lot harder to say, all right, what's the next step? I probably should talk to my parents about this. Whoa, now hold on. That small step is a whole lot harder than saying, I'm never doing that again. Sometimes the small step that we take, that small step in the right direction, is a whole lot harder than making a proclamation that we're going to grow overnight. Because I think that when we make the proclamation that we're going to grow overnight, it gives us an out. It allows us to say, well, that didn't happen. But if we say, all right, I'm going to take a step that direction, it makes us say, I'm serious about this. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to start treating people better. I'm going to improve in my language. I'm going to improve in my attitude. I'm going to cut out some things that I struggle with. And I'm not just going to say, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to say, all right, what's my next step? Where do I go from here? And it's step after step after step. We're growing some stuff in our greenhouse right now, and Brinkley, he's not here tonight, but he has been like our grower this year. He has been on top of it. And there's been a lot of steps for us to get to where we are right now. We have little teeny tiny cabbage and lettuce plants about that tall. What that took was Brinkley going out for 15 minutes and tearing out all the weeds. Loading up the next day wheelbarrows of dirt and refilling all the beds so they look all nice. Loading up the wheelbarrow full of mulch the next day and laying down mulch on the floor so weeds don't grow up. Going out and planting the seeds in the correct spacing in the right rows. Then it took him going out the next day. He goes out every morning, make sure they're watered. Every night, make sure they're watered. Goes out midday, has to open up the windows so the seeds don't get too hot. Has to go out at night, reclose the windows so the seeds don't get too cold. It's step after step after step after step to get seeds that are this tall. But eventually, those plants are going to be plants where we can hold them, and they are this wide. And we are going to be able to roast up a whole bunch of cabbage and make salads out of lettuce, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's not saying, all right, I'm going to grow some plants, and we throw some seeds in the ground and we let them be. No. It's step after step after step after step after step, day in and day out, moment by moment. Every moment Jesus shows up, we take a step in the next right direction. And that's how we grow spiritually. Moment by moment by moment. We do the hard thing, and we say, I'm going to take a little step. I'm going to make sure that I am committed to this. Day in and day out. What is the next small step that I need to take to grow spiritually? This is the one question that is so vital that we begin to ask ourselves. And so that's my question for you tonight. What next step do you have to take? What thing in your life do you feel like God is revealing himself to you in? And it's not I'm going to grow overnight. It's I'm going to take a step, and when I wake up tomorrow, nobody may notice a thing except for that one person I talked to. It's a step to say, I'm committed to this. I'm going to take a step in the right direction. And that small step is going to be a whole lot harder than the giant proclamation. So my practical challenge to you guys tonight is that you would ask yourself, what step do I need to take? What step do I need to take? Tonight during small groups, we're going to do kind of a practical challenge type thing. And you guys are going to have the opportunity to come up and either grab a flower seed or an acorn squash seed. And we've got some dirt right up there. And this will all be let out in the small group time. But just to stick a seed in the dirt as just a memorable reminder that it's not about growth overnight. It's about taking a step. A memorable reminder that this week, as a practical challenge, you can ask yourself, what is that next step? Not the giant proclamation, just the small step. Let me pray for you guys. God, thank you for growth.